Stephanie White's style of coaching is not for Caitlin Clark.
That there's a bit of a divide between the way that they see the game and the way that they think the Indiana Fever should play.
Possibly try to sabotage the greatest asset the league has ever.
This is insane. Stephanie White has been let go, and the reasoning is clear. Her handling of Caitlin Clark was a disaster. This isn't speculation, it's confirmed. After the meltdown against the Valkyries on July 10th, where her questionable game plan again limited Clark's impact, fans reached their breaking point. This isn't just a routine coaching change. It's the consequence of someone failing to properly manage the league's brightest star.
Caitlin Clark's greatest asset, which is the creator and instigator of offense.
Remember July 10th? That's the night the Indiana Fever suffered a crushing 91-72 loss at home to the Golden State Valkyries. But it wasn't just a single bad game, it was a complete collapse on display. In the middle of all that turmoil, Caitlin Clark was back on the court, but she barely looked like herself. And that's where Stephanie White's role comes into focus.
It has spaded Caitlin Clark, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Coach Stephanie White started Aari McDonald next to Caitlin Clark against the Valkyries, which again she explained by saying it helps to take the burden off of Caitlin.
Honestly, she looked like a player who'd lost her entire rhythm. Gone were the explosive pick and rolls, the lightning-quick fast breaks, the way she controlled the floor. Instead, Clark was pushed off the ball, left watching Aari McDonald run the offense, and relegated to the corner like a forgotten role player. Just like that, the Fever's most dependable weapon, the unstoppable Clark-Boston duo, completely disappeared.
Fans online has been threatening to quit watching the Indiana Fever basketball. Fans is threatening to quit going to the games. And if this was to happen...
Fever fans weren't just upset. They were in shock, asking, what is this lineup? With Clark stuck at small forward.
No one could believe what they were seeing.
And when her long-awaited return ended with just 8 points, the reaction online wasn't just about a quiet performance. It was the sense that she was being deliberately limited, and that possibility sent the internet into a frenzy.
Stephanie White under fire by Fever fans, she blasted her team after the squad's loss to the Golden State Valkyries.
Because I felt like there was a lack of competitive fire. With the exception of about 2 5-minute spurts. Our attention to detail was poor.
But it got even more outrageous. At the post-game press conference, Stephanie White essentially added fuel to the fire. She didn't accept a shred of responsibility. Instead, she pointed fingers at the players, criticizing the team for undisciplined play, lack of effort, and poor focus, even claiming they didn't have enough competitive fire. At no point did she address why her rotations made no sense, why Clark was being completely misused, or why the entire game plan collapsed right from the tip-off.
Our attention to detail, undisciplined. I felt like our energy and our competitive fire was not there, and that's disappointing.
This wasn't just out of touch. It felt almost intentional. White acted like she had no role in the disaster, but fans weren't buying it for a second. Everyone could see what was happening. The chaos boiled down to coaching, and soon the whispers became a chorus. Stephanie White was actively sabotaging Caitlin Clark.
Concern, defensively, just lots of movement, lots of lateral movement. I thought she looked good at times, and I think that's just building consistency and building her endurance and all of that. So I was pleased.
So, that's an interesting...
And let's be real, this tension isn't new. The friction between Clark and White has been simmering for weeks, all the way back to May 24th after a narrow loss to the Liberty. Clark had been clear on record. She's most effective with the ball in her hands. Yet minutes later, White contradicted her, praising her cutting and off-ball movement while completely ignoring her ball handling. That fundamental disagreement hasn't gone away. It's only grown louder and more contentious. So, what did Stephanie White do next?
Immediately afterwards, in regards to basically what went wrong and why, the Fever fell so flat.
White continued to insist that using Clark off the ball gives the team more options. Get this. She even compared it to how the Mavericks supposedly moved the ball better without Luka Doncic on the court. Wait, Luka Doncic, a generational talent and literally the engine of his team. So when White makes that comparison, the message is clear. The team supposedly plays better when Caitlin isn't running the offense.
We've seen these glimpses where I do believe the Fever at their best can still be what I've talked about and what I've discussed. But
this isn't just a strategy, it's a full-blown philosophy. And it completely contradicts everything Clark has shown throughout her career. Whether at Iowa, early in the WNBA, or under the national spotlight, she's never been a spot-up shooter or a decoy. She's a playmaker, a floor general, a once-in-a-generation talent capable of effortlessly dropping 30 points while dishing out a dozen assists.
Poof, the one thing that was in existence that actually worked, that felt like a little bit of something offensive that worked, gone.
So when Stephanie White chose to start Ari McDonald at point guard against the Valkyries, it felt like the ultimate insult, and the results were disastrous. The offense completely fell apart. Clark looked confused and out of rhythm, and her incredible chemistry with Boston vanished. Yet somehow, the coach seemed completely oblivious to the chaos unfolding on the court.
The fandom is in pure crash-out mode. Somebody exposed.
The fans weren't having any of it. Analysts have started calling her system a point-forward mess, openly accusing her of completely limiting Clark's impact. And the big question on everyone's mind: why is Clark being treated like just another role player? Why has the one offensive set that actually worked, the unstoppable Clark-Boston pick and roll, been completely abandoned?
Does Stephanie White have an agenda? Her coaching style is influenced by her NC2A championship coach, Carolyn Peck.
Then there's this wild connection with Carolyn Peck. White was actually mentored by Peck, who just days ago told ESPN that the Fever were better off without Clark. That's not just a controversial opinion, it's a huge warning sign. White followed Peck at Vanderbilt, where she had a history of pushing top players into the transfer portal. Now the pattern seems to be repeating, losing locker rooms and mishandling elite talent. Whether you see it as a hidden agenda or sheer incompetence, one thing is clear: something had to give. And it finally did. Stephanie White is out. The Indiana Fever front office made the only move they could, because this wasn't about a single bad game. It was about a recurring failure, a fundamental mismatch between a coach and her superstar, and a team circling the drain with arguably the league's most valuable player in decades.
There is a plot to destroy Caitlin Clark, and Stephanie White and the Indiana Fever might be in on it.
Let's break down the numbers. Before the Valkyries game on July 10th, the Fever were already struggling at 5-4. That loss turned them into a 5-5 team after a brutal 19-point defeat to an expansion team that hadn't even existed last season. And this was supposed to be Clark's big return. Instead of reintegrating her into a system that highlighted her strengths, she was placed in an awkward off-ball role alongside Ari McDonald, who, by the way, had only joined the WNBA 3 weeks earlier. That's not just poor coaching. That borders on malpractice.
Stephanie White is an idiot, should be fired. This woman played Ari McDonald 18 minutes in the first half. 3 weeks ago, Ari McDonald wasn't on a WNBA roster.
And Stephanie White's track record doesn't exactly inspire confidence. At Vanderbilt, she ended up with a 46-83 record and multiple star players transferred out, including SEC forward Autumn Newby, top scorer Mariella Fasula, and standout freshman Rebecca Dolman.
Why?
Because players didn't feel empowered, because their skills were mismanaged, and because White struggled to handle elite talent effectively.
The Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston deadly connection, pick and roll, two-man game connection that has worked.
Fast forward to the WNBA, and it's a familiar story. Caitlin Clark, the #1 overall pick, leading all rookies in points and assists, the league's top jersey seller, and the reason the Fever are filling arenas coast to coast, was completely limited by Stephanie White. Her signature Clark-Boston pick and roll was taken away. She was relegated to standing in the corner, stripped of the one thing that makes her extraordinary, the ball in her hands and the freedom to create.
Caitlin Clark has a horrible game in her return. The whole team is...
This wasn't just a bad strategy, it was borderline sabotage. Whether intentional or just sheer stubbornness, the result was the same. The Fever were getting worse, not better. And the league's brightest star looked miserable on the court. That's when the front office finally took action. When your coach can't manage the future of your franchise, the most valuable player in the league, you don't wait around. You pull the plug. And that's exactly what they did. Clark might not be throwing chairs or posting on Instagram Live, but if you're paying attention, her frustration is clear. And right now, it's screaming for change.
I think we need to do a better job of getting me the ball in transition, whether somebody's there or not. I think there's a fine balance of playing me off the ball and also getting the ball in my hands. That's when I'm the best in transition. Everybody knows that. I'm very open about that.
She's said it countless times, in different ways and with varying tones, but it always comes back to the same unmistakable point. She's at her best when the ball is in her hands.
You have to consider the possibility that the Indiana Fever are in on the plot to destroy Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark isn't thriving in this system. Far from it. She's like a Ferrari stuck in a bumper car arena. This is a player who led all of college basketball in points and assists, yet now she's watching Ari McDonald, who just joined the league a month ago, run the offense as if it were her team.
I thought we started really well. I thought we were competitive. I thought we played with energy in the first 5 minutes. And then, when they kind of went on their first run, it kind of deflated us a little bit, which I'm not really sure why. But the offense, I think, for us, it starts on defense.
After that brutal loss to the Valkyries, where the Fever got completely steamrolled by an expansion team, Clark was asked about the game. She didn't throw a tantrum or act like a diva. Instead, she offered measured disappointment. She said the team started strong, with energy early on, but then the run happened and they deflated. Pause on that for a second. We deflated. That's not typical locker room talk. It's a polite way of saying the team lost its soul on the court.
Struggled, scouting report-wise. We struggled personnel. We struggled to do what the coaches asked of us. And then, overall, we just played with more energy and effort. And, those are the things that just can't.
She acknowledged that the defense was sloppy, admitted the team hadn't followed the scouting report, and even took responsibility, saying, "Nobody played well today." But it wasn't just her words. You could feel it in her tone and body language. Something was off. And now, it's becoming clear what was really happening behind the scenes. A growing, undeniable philosophical rift between Caitlin Clark and head coach Stephanie White.
You see the Mavs just play differently without Luka on the floor. When he's not on that floor, the ball is moving. It's popping. Multiple players getting involved in the action. So it does give you a little insight into how Coach White thinks at times.
But Coach Stephanie White clearly had a different vision. She even brought up Luka Doncic, claiming the Mavericks moved the ball better without him on the floor. That wasn't just a random observation. It revealed exactly how she viewed Caitlin Clark. Most people liken Clark to Steph Curry, an elite shooter with limitless range. But the reality is she's more of a hybrid, a LeBron-Luka type, a central offensive force who bends defenses with her playmaking and presence. She's a system in herself, not just a piece. So when White designs a scheme that treats Clark like a standard 3 and D wing, it's not just confusing, it's downright insulting.
Caitlin Clark should always be the instigator of offense on this team. The distributor and instigator of offense, whether it is her scoring or her distributing the ball out in the way that we know she can.
Caitlin Clark is the heartbeat of this team. And it felt like Stephanie White was trying to turn that identity into something else, something balanced or team first, where Clark doesn't drive the system but is just another cog, rather than the engine that makes everything run.
We're talking about a woman that obviously has court vision in the same way that some of the greatest distributors in the history of basketball ever have.
Here's the kicker. The WNBA didn't see this surge in attention because fans were eager to watch the Fever move the ball 12 passes deep like the 2014 Spurs. No, they came to see Caitlin Clark create magic. And when that magic is taken away, people notice. They start asking tough questions, and right now, those answers are getting increasingly difficult to hear.